Thank you to Phil to give me the opportunity to speak. As most of you know, I never pass up an opportunity to talk. However, I really come here for the cheesecake. So, we've been in the press lately about some new solution that we just introduced with our partners at Verizon. So I'm actually surprised to see a lot of you here. Why you still want to know more about what we've done. So what I have here is a little presentation that goes into a little overview of what we learned over the past several years as we were developing. Is that me? I got two mics here. Anyway, what we learned over the past several years as we really got into this business of pagers, because our reaction when we were asked to help solve this problem were, pagers? They're still around? And it was very insightful learning about why they're still around and the challenges that people face with them. So, very brief presentation, and then I'm going to give you a demonstration of the solution as we continue to evangelize what we've done. Okay? So start off with why pagers are still used. Very simple. They're cheap. They're inexpensive, right? Average pagers are around $5 to $15 a month. They're as high as $40. Some actually don't even have a monthly fee because they're their own built-in network. They're expensive to purchase these things, but it's a very cost-effective solution for mass deployments, and that's the number one reason, especially as you're dealing with organizations, enterprises that have 3,000, 5,000, 10,000 pages. We've seen up to 20,000 pages in a single organization. Very difficult to try to swap that out with existing technology. The second reason is they work in areas that newer handsets don't. They're based on different frequencies, and so they have better building penetration for these military bunkers that are also known as hospitals and factories and everything else. Okay, that's a second reason why the pagers are still around. The third reason is, and I think I lost my mic. Okay. The third reason is it really was designed as a one-to-mass medium, where I can send a message to 5,000 devices, and they all wake up at the same time and get that message. So they're really used for emergency groups, code groups in hospitals. Factories use them to alert people that the machine's down, the line's down, it's costing a lot of money, and things like that. So that's why they're still used. There's a bunch of other reasons why they're still used, but those are really the top three that we learned over the past several years. So we start looking into this thing and really start to ask, why do you want to replace them? What are the problems with the pagers? If they're working, if they're great, if they're cheap, why would you want to replace them? And there are a number of fundamental reasons for that, not to mention the fact that they're really, really old technology. But the first one is the fact that it's a one-way device. So you really can't tell if that person received that message. You send a message to a group of pagers, and it's almost like closing your eyes, and there's some good examples of people playing, but that's what you're doing. You're basically playing with this messaging. Okay, you close your eyes, you toss the ball, you don't know if the person over there was waiting for it. He doesn't know that you actually received, that the message was coming to him. So it's a one-way device, there's no acknowledgement, and that's a real fundamental problem with this. So we've walked into hospitals, for example, where their process, you ask them, why do you use pagers? Oh, it's for critical messaging. Great. What does that mean? Well, I've got to get that message to a group of people immediately. So you ask them, okay, so how long do you have to, what's immediate? How long do you wait for this thing? Oh, it's got to be there now. We can't wait. We can't wait 10 seconds. It's got to be 5 seconds. It's got to be whatever. Okay, so what's your process? Well, we send a page. We wait 2 minutes. We don't hear anything. We send a page. We wait 2 minutes. And then we pick up the phone and start calling people. So they've lost 5 minutes in that immediate message. Okay, that's a typical process in a lot of the organizations that we met with. Right? Some actually have done even something a little bit more advanced than that. They send a message and send a message. They don't even wait the 2 minutes, knowing that they have a 50-50 chance that one of them is going to go through. Okay. The second reason to replace the pagers, and this is key, is that there hasn't been any real new investment in technology in paging in 50 years. So it's 50-year-old technology. Not to mention the technology, the towers, they're being decommissioned, they're brought down. There are hospitals that are waking up, walking in one day and saying, I can't get a single page. Why is the page here? And they spend the next 10 hours trying to figure out, only to come to the conclusion that the provider that they're working with has decommissioned the tower that was covering their hospital, and they absolutely have no coverage. Okay. The third reason to replace them, it's an absolute nightmare. Managing, it's a labor-intensive process. I mean, we've seen some of these pictures. I actually got the one today with the telephone with the batteries in there. You know, from now on, I'm actually going to start bringing a camera as I see these things. But that one came from one of the Verizon salespeople that just saw it and sent it to me. I was like, this is perfect, great for my presentation. But this is exactly the problem. I mean, the problem is that managing the deployment and the administration of pages for 5,000 users or 10,000 users is very labor intensive. And it basically means that these organizations have one or two people that do nothing but manage pagers, okay, for a very antiquated solution. So we came up with a solution that consists of three components. The first one is this device. I got to tell you, it's not about the device, but you need the device in order to be able to really address some of the challenges of what's happening in these buildings. And, you know, we have a pretty extensive Wi-Fi background, so what we did to this thing is we applied that technology and that background in the device, but using a lot of the same technologies that are in handsets today. So it's got the same cellular connectivity technology approved by Verizon, shipped in every handset. It's got Wi-Fi that is in a lot of the handsets themselves, but we designed it differently. What we did is the device outside the building uses the Verizon 3G network, okay, giving you that fantastic coverage, and I'll talk about that a little bit further. Okay, but when it walks into the hospital or in the building, it immediately switches to the Wi-Fi network automatically. So a doctor's not worried about, well, you know, I'm down in the basement, I lost my coverage, I need to turn on Wi-Fi, I need to connect to that access point, I need to be able to go in and enter my credentials and connect. Oh, but I still don't get my messages, I still don't get my alerts, I still, you know, they can browse the web all they want, okay, and every handset falls into this trap, okay? So we designed it differently. We have a device that treats both networks, you know, I don't want to say equally, but there's no other word that really describes it. We do treat it equally in the sense that we're looking for a network. We're trying to establish that connection to make sure we deliver that message, okay? But as we're walking through the hall of a hospital, where the hospital could have 1,000 access points, 1,500 access points, or every few feet there's an access point. We're doing Wi-Fi, and all of a sudden, boom, we've lost coverage because there is no access point. We immediately switch to the Verizon network within 20 seconds, and we're delivering that message. Okay? So we designed the handset, you know, specifically to behave the way it should. Not to mention, so I can drop it a dozen times to the concrete floors, although this is not concrete. The second thing, and I think a key part of this solution, was really solving the messaging aspect of this. So we have this solution. I'll try to get out of the way here so I can describe it. But we basically have this hosted in the cloud environment. Everybody's talking about in the cloud. We've been delivering in the cloud for years. And it's part of this, you know, 1-2 punch to really solve the messaging problem, right? The device is connected to the Wi-Fi network, switching to the Verizon network, coming back to the Wi-Fi network, and it's doing this dynamically without anybody having to do anything. But in the back end, what's happening is we have this infrastructure where if you think of a traditional hospital deployment, you have a dispatch center, and they get a call and say, could you call code blue, code red, you know, or whatever, maintenance. Same thing happens in other enterprises as well. Hotels, they do that, right? So anyway, so we have this backend infrastructure that really allows us to manage the deployment of the device and the solution. And so we can control every aspect of the device. What features on the device? What features are enabled for this particular user or for that group? Okay, and really allow an administrator to really worry only about the messaging and not anything else. Okay. And the third piece, extremely important, obviously, was Verizon. Okay, the Verizon network giving us that coverage, not only in the building, like I said, if we run into an area of Wi-Fi and don't have that Wi-Fi coverage, we're back on the network, giving us that coverage, but outside of the building. Okay, hospitals have multiple buildings and campuses. Well, they have great Wi-Fi inside those buildings, but between the two, there is no coverage, right? So the Verizon network allows us to really continue that seamless coverage. And, you know, There's no other network that's better than this, period. Okay, so we had 3 objectives in our solution. Number 1 was really to deliver a more reliable message delivery solution. I got to go right again. Okay? And it's much more than solving the problem of a one-way device. I have a message. I need to be able to send that message to a group of users. And what's just as important is, did that message get there, or did it not get there? And that's what we've done with our solution. So we're able to send a message to a group of users, 10,000 devices, within 90 seconds, and know, did that message get there? Did that person read that message? Has that person responded to that message? That's the accountability that someone is really looking for when they're sending a critical message. That's what I want them to respond to. Okay? And to be able to replicate that paging experience, which is extremely important. The second thing was really solve the problem of managing, and the distribution and managing of the devices. So really, not that we want to get rid of that second pager administrator, but make it a lot easier for them to really to deal with the devices. So we've done some really cool things. For example, if I have a device and I bring it home with me, and all of a sudden I start getting critical, high priority message alerts, and I rush to the hospital and I left my device at home. We've heard that. We've heard that from a lot of the hospitals we spoke to. It's like they walk in, using the traditional paging architecture, it's a nightmare, right? They have these CAD code groups. We've walked into hospitals where they have shoe boxes with yellow sticky notes on it that says code blue, code red, code 395, or whatever that code group is. And what happens is they have to find a pager to be in that same group to be able to give it to that doctor, so they don't have to reconfigure their entire system, right? Otherwise, they have to call their carrier and send them a page. These are some of the ridiculous things that exist in paging. Well, we solved it in the sense that if I get my device and I'm getting these code messages, these high priority messages, and I rush to the hospital, and leave my device at home. I get a new device when I walk in, type in my username and password. Our server automatically retransmits all those messages that have been delivered to that first device that you haven't read, that you've missed, that you haven't acknowledged, to the new device, and wipes out that first device. Okay? Really eliminating that extra effort to deal with the critical paging. Okay? Not to mention we can lock devices, wipe devices, and everything else. Everybody heard that famous iPhone story in the bar. So we can lock devices too. Okay. The third challenge, or the objective, was to try to do so without significantly increasing the cost. Bullet number 1 earlier, or slide number 1 was pagers are cheap. Right. So we designed this handset using some of the core technologies as I described, but really, I'm looking for another handset here. Designed it in the sense that it doesn't have Bluetooth, it doesn't have some of the more advanced things and expensive things that are being designed into handsets. We took a very basic approach. That's what we did when we came out with our Z1 platform as well. It was really, let's go after what's the absolute minimum we can do to really do the job right. The requirements we got from the hospitals: could you make it a little wider so people can actually type on it? So it's got a pretty wide keyboard. Okay. Could you make it so I could drop it a dozen times, right? And so we have those requirements. It's got a user removable battery. We have the challenges of trying to solve, the pager batteries that last 30 days on AA's. We can't do that with all the technology we have in there, but we got some solutions, and there's some people in this room that have been helpful at that as well. But really focus on that low-cost aspect. And there's some other things as well that you may have read about that we're not really ready to talk about yet, but it's pretty sophisticated in the sense that outside of the building, it's a data device using the Verizon network, walks into the building immediately. It continues to be a data device. There's some other stuff that's coming as well. You'll hear about it shortly. Okay?
Why do you do that? Why do you switch between the two?
Well, great question. I mean, the second slide that I had where it says that in-building penetration is a key problem. We've walked into hospitals when we say, okay, we have a solution. It uses Wi-Fi and uses cellular. And they say, great, and they take us right down to the bowels of the hospital and say, we have never had a pager or a cell phone work here. Well, we're in there and we're working because we're hopping on the Wi-Fi network, because it doesn't really cost much to add an access point to a network in a hospital. And they can, move it around and just shift it in order to be able to give that coverage. So we switched to Wi-Fi to be able to give that in-building penetration the way we need to deliver that message. That's the primary reason we do that. There are other reasons as well. There's some additional capabilities that we're offering in our solution when it gets into Wi-Fi, other configurations, other communications infrastructure, stuff like that. We're part of their in-building network and in-building infrastructure. So, associated with PBXs, associated with other things that they have as part of the deployment. That's another reason to have it on there. But it allows us to also control the cost. Remember, the cost, $5 to $15. The industry average is about $10. Okay. Verizon signed a $15 a month plan for this thing. Okay. And we're staying within that $15 a month because we're also using the Wi-Fi network and not really using that network. But we characterize this thing, if we were full time on the Verizon network, and all the data and all the messaging and the power down. So we really designed this thing to say, okay, 100% of the time, if we run the Verizon network, we're going to get $15. Okay? Those are the reasons we're using Wi-Fi. So before I get into this thing, I do want to mention a couple of the groups here. We've done this. We mentioned all of the groups that have worked with us. In particular, I'm highlighting the groups that actually worked with us on this solution. In particular, we worked with Y-Prowess on a charging technology where you can just place this thing on a mat. We walked into hospitals where you see a bunch of charging stations, boxes of batteries and what they're doing. So this is a mat that will charge the device. So that's an example of a local company. Obviously Proactive, they already gave their own plug-in, so I'm not going to do that. Now seriously, some of the technology that they have from the software, the back end, allowing us to really show these visual controls the way we want to. Fantastic. Okay. Irwin Penguin, which has helped us with a lot of the marketing and the collateral and the stuff that's really the communication that's coming out. I didn't put Smoke PR on here. I should have. Couldn't find their logo, but they've helped us with a lot of the PR stuff. And of course, ELG, who's really helped us with the legal. And I want to point this out. We worked on this thing. We leveraged a lot of the companies in this area to really help us solve this particular problem. The number one, partner, obviously, there is Verizon. So, anyway, short time, I'm going to give you a demonstration of how the solution works. Assuming Phil didn't mess this up. So here I am. I'm logged into this console. The interesting thing about paging is that pagers are they're all the same. Same technology, same everything, same limitations, but every deployment is completely unique. It's one of the things that obviously we've learned and we figured out. We walked into areas where we asked them, show us how you send a page, and what they do is they go onto this PC, and we've seen the PC crash in front of us 3 times, blue screen to death. Then they reboot it, and then they can send a page out. Wow. Okay. So we have this hosted environment, like I mentioned, and we call this the Zipit wrap. Okay. I logged in. I'm looking at my list of users. I can't see because the fonts are small, but anyway. What I'm going to do right now is I have my list of users. I can actually drill down into things, particular devices or something, and apologize for the size of the thing. I can't make it any bigger, but I can control things, like for example, certain features. I can control if the device is locked. So immediately, if I put it down, a password will come out, prompting me. If I wipe the device, it prompts for a password. Things like that. Those are the policies that the enterprises really need as part of this thing. But it gives me the status of the device. Is it connected? Is it offline? Is it online? Is it connected to an access point, or is it connected to the Verizon network? Things like that. What's the serial number? As well as other additional things that the administrator or IT dispatcher can control. I'm going to come over here and send a message. So we have obviously code groups or whatever. I can dynamically create this thing. I can add a user to 1,000 groups or one group, or that group could have 1,000 people, and it doesn't really matter. The device just starts getting pages. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to select a page. There's multiple priority levels, and the device, again, we designed the device to behave uniquely. The device knows what type of message is coming in. So if it's a priority 1 message, behaves different than a priority 2 or priority 3 or priority 4 message. Okay, and that's important. So as a doctor or clinician or anybody else, I'm getting a message, a page. I can hear and I can tell what type of page it is. I can look at the device and tell what type of page it is and respond accordingly, or not respond, depending on the type of message. But so there's expirations that we set for the messages. There's responses, and I haven't perfected typing and talking at the same time. So I'm going through my MiFi device over here. And now I just sent a group page. So our server's in the process of processing the message, queuing it up, identifying everything, and there they go. Okay? So the devices are going to start to go off. You'll notice. This is fun. Okay. So I have multiple devices all going off at the same time, acting like a pager. I should have given some of these things out to people, but basically, let me start responding to this thing because it's going to drive me nuts here. I'm going to say no. I'm going to say yes. I'm back here. Okay, shut up.
Is that the third option?
I'm going to show you this thing there. It's actually, but so I have this device. I think everybody else should not this out. Okay, I'm letting this one go off so I can show you what we're doing here, right? The device, the keyboard's locked. I can't do anything. So I'm a clinician. I'm in the middle of something. I'm hearing this page. It's driving me crazy. If I had turned the ringtone off, if I made it silent or vibrate, a priority on message overrides that. Okay, and I gotta respond to this thing. It's going to drive me nuts. It's vibrating. It's going to preserve over here. I'm going to say yes. Anyway, what you're seeing though here, and it's really hard to see. I apologize. I can't really. No, I can't control that. I sent the message to a group of users. I know if the device is on. I know if a person, was offline, connected to the cellular network, not connected to the network. I know the message was delivered. I responded to that message. What's my response? Check. So as an administrator, as a dispatcher, I know what happened. I sent the message. He got it. He didn't. She got it. And that's that accountability that we're bringing to this as part of this solution. Okay. So really important. The people that see this are saying, "Oh my God, I haven't been able to do that with the tools that they have today." Okay.
Does it provide a summary report so you could just say, "Hey, I want to filter down to only people who"?
Yes. And typically, I use this as an example here, and I have a bunch of people in there that haven't been issued a device, only to show people what happened. What happens typically, what we do, what a dispatcher will do is, okay, you 5 people are in my code blue group, and so they will get the devices, and so you'll see that. You won't see this person never got it because he didn't get one, that type of a thing. I use that as my example here, okay? And I can, dynamically create as many groups as I want, or whatever. So I just sent that message. You saw what happened with that. I mean, we can obviously go back to all the different types of messages, or the history, and start looking at all these messages I've sent, historically, archived, and everything else. Because a year or two from now, there's somebody that always comes knocking on their door saying, can you prove that you delivered that message, and that you did your job as an organization? Well, that's what this brings, is that peace of mind. Okay. A couple other things that I want to show you is some of the reporting functionality, and these are the tools that Verizon has really helped us with. In the sense of delivering the message, knowing what the average message time was, right? So I delivered that message, hard to see. Maximum was 56 seconds, average was 15 seconds, minimum was 2 seconds. And in these particular examples, I'm sending a message, my device is off, I turn on the device. Once the device comes on, it connects to our server and we deliver that message, right? So that's why you're seeing some of this thing. But we have an SLA in place, 90 seconds. Within 90 seconds, we're going to deliver that message to 10,000 people and know if it's out there and everything else. And that's what we're showing as part of this thing. But there's some really cool things that I can show you here as well. For example, back here. I go 3, 1. This is cool. So here I am showing the state of my device. All right, so this is our Heredia. I've logged in, I'm looking at it, well, it's connected to the cellular network, and I powered it off. And then I come back on, now I'm on Wi-Fi, and then I go back in and I'm offline, so I'm not connected to either network. You know, and that's what we're showing them because some of the stories we've heard is, doctor comes in 3 o'clock in the morning. Sorry if there are any doctors here. Comes in at 3 o'clock in the morning, the next day he says, between 3 and 5, I'm never getting a message. Well, they're powering off the device. Okay? That's why they're not getting messages, right? Or they're in an area that they don't have coverage. Those are the things that what we believe critical messaging is all about. It's that accountability of the message. The accountability, did that person get it? Did that person respond and everything else? And these are the tools that we're providing as part of our solution for this thing. Okay? And then, of course, other reports. And there's some more reports that are coming. But these are just some examples of messaging. What's happening? Are they, we're starting to change the workflow. Okay? Because a typical one-way device with pagers is I walk inside a hospital, I get a page, and I got to find something to call back, right? Well, now what's happening is I get the page, I can't respond, I can't go, I immediately send a message to somebody in my group, and that person, now there's that conversation, and you start seeing the dynamics of this thing. This is my sample data, but the data that we have from the hospitals that have already deployed this thing is we're seeing this completely different paradigm shift because now it's two-way communications in an area of the building that they have never been able to communicate with. Okay. That's pretty much it for my dog and pony. I think I have one last thing that I want to show here, which shows you the power of what we've done in the sense of Wi-Fi, right? So I can set up access points, right? So typical handset is, I described it before, where I have a handset and it has Wi-Fi, and I lose my coverage. I have to turn on manually, I have to connect manually, I have to type in my credentials. We've taken that whole equation out of it and made it where the IT dispatcher, or the IT administrator, sets up the deployment for the enterprise with 1,000 access points, puts in all this information, the device just automatically gets it, and now it starts switching dynamically. Okay, so that network could be WPA, that one could be WPA2, that one could be web. We don't care, right? And we're switching, and hopping around and just connected. Okay, they do that through this. We've done some pretty sophisticated things as well, in the sense that you walk into an area of the hospital, and it's a quiet area, like a recovery or a nursery. We disable the sounds on the device. And when we walk out, immediately turn the sounds back on. Okay? We walk in an area of the hospital that might have interference as a result of MRIs, radiation, or anything like that. We can shut off the cellular circuitry in the design. Okay? That is how we designed this device in order to be able to work in that particular environment. Okay? So my time is up. Any questions? Yes?
On that figure right there, would your 911 emergency critical override that? Bring a sound in?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's what I described earlier, right? We have 4 priority levels, including mailbox type deliveries where it's silent, it just blinks the LED, or we have unique ringtones that you can assign. So you can assign the ringtones or whatever to the alerts of the messages that are coming in, but a priority 1 message overrides every one of those settings, and basically, I don't care if you want to play disco music on yours, we're going to set it as critical alert. That's what I showed you before, and that's that priority 1 message. So yeah, absolutely. It overrides any settings on the device. So if it's on vibrate, if it's on silent, or unique ringtones, it turns it right back on, and it says it's critical alert time. Yes?
Did I miss, you said it had GPS or some sort of triangulation?
No, it does not. Okay, again, those are other things that cost a lot more in terms of what they end up costing in terms of the solution. We do have Wi-Fi capability, right? So we know which access point we're connected to and things like that, and it allows them to map out the building a little bit differently and do things uniquely. So it has the triangulation, so to speak, for inside the building, but outside the building it uses the Verizon network, and you just have that nationwide coverage.
So could you target people that are in the building versus out of the building? Based on which network?
No, not really. I mean, basically, you're a doctor. I need to get a hold of you. I don't care where you're at. I got to get a hold of you, and that's really the model that we really designed this thing around. Okay. And I know if you're in the building or not. So. Okay.
I also saw instant messaging on one of those screens.
Yep. That's our background, right?
Exploring other connections besides just the device.
We actually have instant messaging. I mean, obviously everybody knows about our IM platform that we talked about in the past. So we have that bag of tricks technology. It's not applicable to the hospitals, but it is applicable to some of the other enterprises that we've met with over the past several years that use it as well. I won't name a few, but manufacturing companies, automobile companies, and stuff like that. They use IM as part of the standard platform. So yeah, we have that. There are others as well that are coming. So this is a full communications platform. It's not just a pager. And it's not about paging, but we're solving all the paging problems. Anything else? Yes?
How did you and Verizon find each other?
Wow. They're everywhere. No.
Did you reach out to them? Did they reach out to you?
No, you know what? What happened was is 3 years ago, they made an announcement that they're opening up the network, okay, to work with third-party companies, to build solutions and everything else. And when they made that announcement, they had an event in New York, and so I attended that event and actually had dinner with one of the executives there. Got invited to dinner, and brought up a V2 with me, and hit it off. Basically said, hey, I want to show you, thanks for putting on this event. Look at this device that we've done. It's all Wi-Fi, and the executive VP that was running that organization said that's the type of device I want on my network. And so he introduced me to somebody else, part of their business development team, who came up to visit us to find out a little bit more about who is Zipit, what are they, what do they do, and really got a good insight as to who we are and what we can do. And they basically asked, hey, they called me up about a month later and they said, we have an opportunity, would you be interested? And I said, yep. And so we flew down, met with a hospital, and had an absolutely fantastic meeting, understanding about pagers. Because again, when they said, would you help us solve this pager problem, my reaction was, pagers? Because that's what they died, okay? And it turns out that's not the case. There's about 5 million pagers still in use today, okay? Half of them are in healthcare. And so we really studied it and brought the solution to market with them. And that's really how the connection works. So, anything else? Oh, yes.
How's this solution being received in the marketplace?
Absolutely fantastic. Amazing. I mean, in the sense that we're busy. It's exclusive to Verizon, okay? And the Verizon team understands the opportunity here and what the solution is. And, they've been hearing it for years. And it's not that they don't have other solutions for other pager replacements, smartphones and everything else. Doctors and executives are moving to these devices, and we're not after that. We're after the core fundamental pager. A typical hospital could have 50,000 employees, but still have 5,000 pagers. That's what we're after. And we have some unique benefits in this solution, and obviously some very strong IP, okay, that is not going to be easy to replicate. Now, we're always on our guard and looking at everything that's coming, but the response has been, finally, this is the first real pager replacement solution. Yes?
Have you done anything in the emergency services market, like 911 responders?
We're talking to a bunch of people. We're engaged. We're working cooperatively with the Verizon sales teams on this thing, and we're in discussions with a lot of different organizations aside from healthcare. We approach healthcare, but we're talking to everybody. And I showed you this solution, and we talked about pagers, hospitals, and everything else. There's really nothing healthcare specific about this thing. It is a pager replacement solution. It's 128-bit encrypted, so it's completely encrypted. The ROM's encrypted. It was really designed for any type of critical messaging. So we're having lots of discussions with various vertical markets as well. Okay.
How about a round of applause for Rob?